Look, I know it's brutal, but this is why you'll never play at the Division 1 level. Now, if you're watching this, you're probably someone who's trying to get to the Division 1 level or the professional level. I mean, if you clicked on this video, then you're looking for ways to actually accomplish that. Now, you might be wondering, okay, who is this dude and why can he tell me that, you're never gonna play Division 1? It's because I was in the exact same situation that you were. I was a 16-year-old throwing 78 miles an hour, right? With aspirations to get to the Division 1 and the professional level. And I thought that I was gonna get to the Division 1 level, but I got absolutely humbled in a showcase when, I was throwing 78 as a 16-year-old. Obviously, I got no offers, right? Even the next year when I was throwing 88 miles an hour, I got one offer to a small JUCO and no Division 1 offers, okay? And it was only by making a drastic change from when I was throwing 88 and then the next year, and this was my senior year of high school. Most people tell you that, oh, your senior year is way too late to get recruited, but I got recruited in the summer of my senior year, right? And at that time, I was throwing 96 miles an hour, okay? And I got 50 plus Division 1 offers. In my showcases, I was anywhere from 92 to 95, throwing 96. I was throwing strikes, competing, and dominating. And I was able to get an offer from my dream Division 1 school, which was Stanford University. And after that, I went on to play 7 years of professional baseball. All of that opportunity that I got with the offer to Stanford and going to play with the Phillies and the Rangers came down to that one transformational year where I went from 88 to 96 miles an hour, right? Honestly, it was more from 78 to 96 because when I had that humbling showcase when I was throwing 78 miles an hour, I knew something had to change, and it took me about 2 years, 16 months to 2 years, somewhere in that range, to get to 96 miles an hour, to get my offers and the opportunities that I got. Now, when I look back to when I was throwing 78, like, throwing slow sucks, and I get it. And if you're watching this, you're probably someone who doesn't throw very hard. If you're in the upper 70s to low 80s, right, then you're kind of in that zone where, like, you're just gonna get no offers, right, from any type of colleges. You kind of need to break into the mid upper 80s to kind of see a little bit more offers, and then obviously 90 plus is where the Division 1 offers and like the big time scholarships and everything starts to roll in. And so when I was throwing 78, I went to a showcase like I talked about, and I had a friend who was throwing 90, okay? And I would go out there and I would throw strikes and I had good off speed, and I was like, yeah, I did well. And I had no offers. But the guy next to me who actually hit 91, which was a PR, right, as a 16-year-old, got offers from everyone, right? Every single school that had come to watch was like, yep, we're gonna give him an offer. He's up to 91 already. He's gonna be a beast, right? And I'm just sitting there being like, I pitched better than him. Like, what's the difference? Now, this experience really told me that velocity is the key difference, right? And we live in a day and age of baseball where it's just a brutal reality of that you need to throw hard to get to the next level, right? Obviously, throwing strikes, off speed, all of that, being able to pitch sequencing, pitch designing, all of that is important to be a very good pitcher, okay? But to get a chance at the next level, especially at the Division 1 level, you need to throw really hard, right? 90 plus, ideally, and honestly, these days, 95 is becoming the new 90. If you're a high school guy throwing 90, there's hundreds of guys throwing 90, right? But if you're a high school guy throwing 95, now you're special. And that's why when I was throwing 96 as a high school senior, right, all of these Division 1s found room and found scholarship money to offer me, because that is an extremely rare thing, right? And so it's kind of like a delusion of, I need to go showcase my junior year or my sophomore year because, everyone's going to have their rosters filled up. Yes, they're going to have their rosters filled up. And these massive schools, like the Vanderbilts, the Floridas, the SEC schools, yeah, they're going to have their rosters pretty filled up from a little bit younger. But these smaller mid-major D1s, like if you're a dude pumping, 90 plus, they're gonna find a spot for you, right? And so I'd much, much rather you go out and showcase as a high school senior after you've actually developed, right? and now you throw 90 plus and now you go showcase versus going out and showcasing as a junior throwing in the low 80. Okay, because this is another thing that people don't really think about, is that these showcases and travelable competitions cost a lot of money and time. Okay, and I want to challenge you, whoever's watching this, to be like, okay, why am I actually doing this? Is it because you're looking to get to the next level, to the college level? Well, if that is the case, then you need to assess yourself and be like, am I good enough to actually go to the college level? And am I good enough to get recruited? To where if I go on these showcases, these travelable things, that costs a lot of money, honestly, right? If I go to that and get that exposure in front of these scouts, will they want me? That's what you need to figure out, right? Because if you're a guy who's throwing 78, 82, and you go on these showcases, I mean, I don't know what you're expecting. Like, no matter how many eyes are on you, like, you're not gonna get that many offers, especially at the Division 1 level. Like, I don't really know of a single person who got recruited to a Division 1 throwing, 78 to 81, unless they're a submarine guy, right, with Nazi stuff. And I know it's brutal, but it's something that you have to look at. And I know there's a lot of FOMO, okay? There's a lot of FOMO around, oh my gosh, all of my buddies are going to this travel thing or the showcase thing. I'm not going to get recruited if I don't go to all of this. At the end of the day, the travelable and the showcase and all of this, it's a business, right? And so they're trying to get as many kids to the travelable and showcases as possible, right? They don't care if you don't get recruited, right? And that's why they push it. And there's a lot of FOMO around this because everyone goes to these and people think they're missing out on opportunities or, scouting eyes or whatever, right? In reality, if you're not good enough to even get recruited, right, which is your main goal, then I would rather you just save that money and time and invest it somewhere else. And so when you're not good enough to get recruited, but you still go on these things like travelable and showcase tournaments, that's when you get the humiliation and you get humbled, right? Where you're sitting there, you think you played well, and you get absolutely zero offers. While you see your friend who throws pretty hard, right? And throws like 0 strikes, get offers. And I know that feeling. I was literally there. And for me, it was even worse because I was from Australia, right? No one's gonna take a chance on a kid from Australia. Like, Australians don't even play that much baseball. It's kind of changing now that we had a #1 overall pick in 2024, Travis Bassana, who's a great friend. But none of these big time colleges are just gonna take a chance on an Australian, right? You need to be absolutely undeniable for them to actually go out and want you. And so the question becomes, what should you do if you know and admit to yourself that you aren't good enough? If you're in upper 70s, low 80s, or even below that, and you're trying to get to the Division 1 level, what exactly should you do to give yourself a chance to get there? Well, you need to work on the #1 thing that all of these colleges look for in a pitcher, which is, as we've talked about a little bit, is pitching velocity. Now, there should be no doubt in your mind by now that pitching velocity is the #1 thing that is required to get to the Division 1 level. And if I haven't really convinced you enough with my own story of going from 78 to 96 miles an hour in 16 months, I actually created a whole video on how I did that, link in the description. If I haven't convinced you enough with that story, well, I'll give you some more stories, okay? I run a company called The Pitcher Lab. It's where we help guys increase pitching velocity to get to the college and professional level. Now, people come to us because they want to get to the next level and they understand that pitching velocity is the #1 thing, right? And so when this actually happens, when we actually work on what is required to get to the next level, then they get offers. Just like Wade, okay? Wade came to us, okay? Just like Wade, who came to us, right? And he was throwing in the upper 70s. But after 6 months of working with us, he had a great result, right? And now he's throwing in the mid to upper 80s as a 15-year-old. And now what happens? Okay, so now he's getting offers to go on official visits to all of these Division 1s, right? To his dream school, which is really what makes it special for us. Now, we've also had a bunch of other commits. For example, Ryan, who's able to get up to 94 miles an hour, and he actually committed to a Division 1 UCF, okay, which is a powerhouse Division 1 university. Or Noah, who similarly was able to get to 93, 94 miles an hour in his high school senior season, right, and committed to Nebraska University. And all of these results are documented on our website. But again, I want you to think about pitching velocity as something like your SAT score, okay? If you have a really good SAT, that means it increases your chances to get to a really good university, right? It's pretty much what pitching velocity is. If you have really good pitching velocity, you throw hard, right? At a pretty young age in high school, then you have a good chance of getting to the Division 1 level, okay? And so that's how I want you to think about it. So the next question becomes, okay, so if we are going to work on pitching velocity, right? For example, for me, as a 16-year-old throwing 78 miles an hour, how do we actually increase pitching velocity and where do we go from here? Because identifying the problem is a huge one. And honestly, if people actually correctly identified their problem, baseball would be a much, much crazier place. Because every single pitcher would be working on pitching velocity. They'd be developing into training instead of going to showcases and tournaments and all of this stuff, and actually becoming better as a player and working on the number one thing that all of these scouts look for, which is pitching velocity, right? And it will be a crazy place. But the good news for you is that you just watching this video are in the top 1% because you recognize that you need to get better before you go out and play and get eyes on you, okay? So now that we know that pitching velocity is the number one thing we need to work on, the next step is how to actually work on it. Now, this is the next place where a lot of people get stuck, okay? Because they go to a showcase, they might have a really humbling experience like I did, and then they're like, okay, I need to game velo, bro. Like, my friend who literally threw 91 miles an hour and didn't throw a single strike got recruited. Funny story, by the way, my first recruiting video ever, I'll put it on the screen right now. I didn't throw a single strike, but I still got offers from Division 1 universities when I blasted that out, right? Contrast to when I was throwing strikes and I was throwing in the mid-upper 80s, I got 0 offers from Division 1. And I had like no replies back from any of these places. But I digress. So with how to increase pitching velocity, now one of the biggest pitfalls that we see, right, is that they go to a place, they're like, okay, I need to increase velocity. Now they go to their coach or something, right, and go start asking, right, how do I actually increase pitching velocity? Now the answer that screws up a lot of players is that they'll get the advice of, hey man, you're young. Velo will come as you age, man. Just wait. And that is the number one piece of advice that holds players back. Because if velo just came with age, right? Everyone would be throwing 90 plus when they're 18, 19, 20 years old. And everyone will be throwing 95 when, you're 25 years old. Like, we're looking at outlier velocity here, and we're talking about getting to the Division 1 level, which is the top 1%. Yeah, if you want to go have fun, right, and play men's league or whatever and just have fun playing baseball, that's totally cool. Like, I wish I could have done that. Like, if you just want to go and have fun and play baseball, then that's awesome. But this is a video for the guys who actually want to get to the next level, the Division 1 level, right? And to get to the top percent, you need to be a top percent player. And that means to be an outlier, like to be separate from the rest of the pack, okay? And so that's why this advice goes so wrong, which is like, hey man, just wait for velo. It's like, okay, if you just wait for velo, then you're just gonna be stuck in the middle of the pack. And you know what the middle of the pack is? The middle of the pack baseball players never play above the college level. Like, only 7% of high school baseball players, right? 7 out of 100 high school players will ever play at the college level. And I'm talking JUCOs, D3s, D2s, let alone Division 1, right? I don't know the exact stat on Division 1, but it'd probably be somewhere close to 1 in 1,000 high school baseball players get to the Division 1 level. And so you need to be a 1 in 1,000 baseball player, right? And that's just not gonna happen by waiting for velo. Unless you're one of these crazy talented, blessed players who grow up to throw 95. I mean, if that's you, then, it's probably not you if you're still watching this. Right? And I definitely wasn't that. I was 16 throwing 78. If I was genetically blessed, then I'd at least be throwing like 85 at 16. You see guys who throw 100 these days. Like, Striker Pence literally threw 100 as a 16-year-old. That's what you call, okay, yeah, genetically blessed. But for the guys the mortals like us who are watching this video and me, I mean, we have to find a way, right? We have to find a way to get there. And the good news is though, there is a way. And it's not some mystical thing. There's a step-by-step process that you can actually follow to get there. So that is the first thing that really, really screws a lot of players up. Now, the second one that screws a lot of people up is that, okay, now they're trying to increase pitching velocity. Now the next logical step is, okay, let's get some pitching lessons. Now they go and get some pitching lessons, okay? But most of the time, there are a couple reasons why this is problematic, right, with pitching lessons. Firstly, with the in-person pitching lessons, unless you're going in and working with that person every single day, there's absolutely no consistency to it. Like I used to do pitching lessons and I absolutely hated it because I would teach someone one thing, right? And then they will come back the next week because I'll do like every weekend or whatever. I would do one a weekend and they would come back and like they reverted. They just like forgot what I told them to do, right? And then it's just like, okay, there's no like compounding effect to it. There's no stacking a good day after a good day. It's just like, all right, week one, we make a little bit of progress. And then all of that time that you're not with the coach, you decline next week. And to be honest, you just stay stagnant, right, with these pitching lessons. Another reason with the pitching lessons that can be really problematic is that we're just focusing on the wrong things. Like we had a humbling experience and now we know that we need to increase pitching velocity, right? And then now we're trying to learn how to increase pitching velocity. And then you go to this pitching coach and then he's trying to teach you how to throw strikes. And don't get me wrong, throwing strikes is extremely, extremely important. But we don't have all the time in the world. Like to get recruited, we have a very short amount of time, right? And the best place that we can put all of our focus into, the highest ROI activity that we can do is to place it on how to increase pitching velocity, okay? And if you do it the right way with pitching velocity, when you actually are able to throw hard, that means better, efficient movement pattern, right? And if you're more efficient toward the plate and you're able to direct more energy toward the plate, what we've seen is that command gets way, way better. We have an athlete, Ryan, he was in JUCO and he literally couldn't throw a single strike to save his life. And he was throwing a little bit slower. He was like in the upper 80s, okay? And as my partner who worked with him, right, Albertus Barber, he's absolute velo doctor and is just a wizard with the mechanics. But he worked with him and he cleaned up his movement patterns to be able to direct more energy through the plate, right? What Ryan was doing was he was just pulling off like this and he was trying to throw hard, and obviously it's hard to throw strikes when he heads like this, right? And once we are able to clean up his movement patterns, right, and actually directing all of that energy through the target, what happened? Well, he threw way more strikes, he threw way harder, he was up to 94, 95, and he won JUCO Pitcher of the Year, right, in 2025. You can go look it up. So I say all that to say the highest ROI activity thing is pitching velocity. Now you better be working on pitching velocity, okay? The last problem with pitching lessons is it's very, very difficult to find someone who has actually done what you want to do, okay? Who has actually thrown in like the mid to upper 90s. Because there's a world of difference to where when you're getting coached by someone who's actually been there and done it and thrown really hard, been at the Division I level or the professional level, they really understand what needs to happen to throw hard, right? And in turn, they can coach much better if they were a high-level athlete themselves, okay? And so those three things combined, that's why I don't like pitching instruction and pitching lessons. And I actually see a lot more harm than good out of pitching lessons. And that's actually something that I experienced to where I would ask my dad, hey, I want to throw hard. And I was in Australia, right? And he was like, okay, let's get some pitching lessons. I'm like, all right, awesome. And I go to these pitching lessons. And to be honest, like looking back, he had absolutely no clue what he was doing, okay? And it did more harm than good, right? We were doing some crazy stuff. And, you know, I experienced that. And that's why I'm not very fond of pitching lessons. Now, the last pitfall that people fall into with how to increase velocity is going to these camps, right? Going to these like 4-week, 8-week camps of like pitching velocity. Now, this might be one of the worst out of them all because a lot of these camps, try to cram in so much intensity within a short amount of time, right? That it's actually really dangerous for some guys to go into. I was talking to one of my athletes at the Pitcher Lab the other day, and I heard about a program that he wanted to do. It was like a winter velocity weighted ball training program. And he was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do it. And I asked him, like, how much experience do you have with weighted balls? And he was like, I mean, I dabble with them, but not too much. And I'm like, okay, so you think that you don't really have too much experience with it, and then you dive into this 8-week program where like the first week you're doing max effort pull downs, and you think that's gonna be good for you? Like, you don't think that's gonna be a little bit dangerous? And he was like, yeah, you're right, like that could be a little bit dangerous. Like, if you shock your system, right, and your arm, then that's really what makes you susceptible to injury, right? And so that's why I kind of stay clear of these like 4-week, 8-week velocity camps that I see everywhere that promise you 5 miles an hour. Because if they really were going to promise you 5 miles an hour, then you have to, in that short amount of time, then you're going to have to go into some high intensity type training that, to be honest, most of the guys aren't going to be ready for, right? If you were to build velocity in a more sustainable way, it's about developing sequencing on the mound, right? Cleaning up mechanical efficiencies, developing yourself in the weight room, developing your lower body power, right? ATP, CP system, all of these things that go together to actually develop sustained pitching velocity. This takes longer than 4 to 8 weeks, right? In my case, it took me 16 months. Okay, but I promise you, if you take a long-term approach on something like this, then it's gonna be so much better than if you were to try to take a quick fix of, okay, I'm gonna do a weighted ball pull down thing for 4 to 8 weeks because, you know, I need 5 miles an hour ASAP, okay? Take a little bit of time, take the long-term approach. If you're good enough, people are gonna find you and they're gonna recruit you. Just like me, I was literally in Australia and I got recruited to Stanford. Right, I got an offer from Stanford because I was throwing 96, not because I went to like 15 showcases beforehand. I literally went to one. I went to one, I threw 96, word spread like wildfire. Hey, there's this Australian throwing 96. Come watch him. Bunch of scouts came, I threw really well, pretty much got an offer from all of them. And so that's what's so important about more of a long-term approach. So what is the best option if you really want to gain pitching velocity, right? Well, there are 2 options that I think about. The first is if you go to a facility, right? And you go there every single day, okay? It's not like, oh, you go to a facility once a week, a baseball facility once a week, because that'll be the same as pitching lessons, but it'll be a baseball facility where you have a coach, right, who actually knows what they're talking about, has done it themselves, or has developed many players to do what you want to do. And you go to that coach every single day at the facility and you do that, okay? Now, that's the first one. The tough part with that is that finding that coach is difficult. Finding a good facility is difficult. And I mean, going to that facility every single day is sometimes unrealistic, right? For everyone who's watching this, you probably have school. Like, going to a facility, if you can, if you're getting homeschooled or something, I mean, yeah, I mean, that'd be a great situation, just to get homeschooled and play baseball and go to the facility every single day. I mean, that would work. But for the rest of us who are parents who, you know, tell us that we need to go to school, that's not gonna work. I actually did pitch that to my parents. I was in Australia, I was like, hey, like, I kind of want to go to this place in the US and take like 6 months off of school. And you can probably figure out what they said. They're like, no, hell no. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I need to figure out a different solution. And so the solution that I arrived at, right, which is what I did, was remote training. And so for the majority of the time that I was going from 78 to 96 miles an hour, I had a remote trainer. Now, this remote trainer was basically coaching me online, okay? He gave me the programs, he gave me the throwing programs, he helped me with my mechanics, pretty much told me what to do every single day to make sure that I take steps toward my goal every single day. And so that's why I recommend remote training for the ease of it, right? Firstly, you don't have to be at a facility every single day, Like I literally just rode my bike to the local park in Australia and looked at what I needed to do and did them and knew that I was making progress. Okay, for someone like you, it might be at a high school, right? And you go to your high school practice, you know exactly what you need to do for your throwing, with your lifting, with your mobility, with everything else, with your mechanics. And then you go bang it out at high school practice, and then you know you made progress for that day, right? There's no guesswork of, oh, you know, what should I do, what should I not do, or like, just like the, this is one of my favorite words, but lollygagging at practice. When I first heard that, it cracked me up. But yeah, when you're just lollygagging, pretty much just means like, oh yeah, you just go throw, you just play catch a little bit, and you're like, yeah, good day. And you pretty much accomplish nothing, right? And that's what 99% of the pitches do, right? If you look at a high school practice or a college practice, I mean, most of those guys, college is a lot better actually because the coaches are on them, but like high schools, you know, they're like high schools, most of the time the coaches aren't really on them and they're on their own for their throwing and they just kind of like lollygag and then that's it, right? With the remote training, you're gonna know exactly what to do every single day so that you're making progress, right? The other thing that makes this the superior option is that it's every day, right? It's not like with the pitching lesson, it's a once a week thing. No, the remote training is an everyday thing where you know exactly what to do every single day. You can even get feedback on a consistent basis, right? So you're just stacking good days on top of good days. It's not like, oh, 1 week and then you come back and it's like a stagnant thing. It's like, all right, we're getting better every single day. We're doing something to get closer to our dream of playing the Division 1 level every single day, right? And that's how, in my opinion, how I went from 78 to 96, because I had that guidance, right? And obviously I had the discipline and the work ethic to put in, but most of that comes easily. Work ethic and discipline comes easy when you know what to do. It usually falls apart when you have no clue what to do and there's guesswork involved and your mind is like, dude, I don't even know what to do. And then it's like, you don't put any work in because you don't even know what to do. When you're told exactly what to do every single day, what adjustments to make, what workouts to do, discipline and work ethic comes easy, right? Because you're just told to do it, you believe in it, right? And you trust in it and you do the work and you can see the results, okay? And so that's what I did for 16 months straight, every single day, how I got to 96 miles an hour. And again, if you want more of a detailed breakdown of exactly what I did, there's a video in the description that you can go and watch. And I break down exactly what I did with that remote trainer. But I want to finish up on how you can get to the Division 1 level and actually the roadmap of getting there. And so, firstly, get humbled, right? Realize that pitching velocity is something that you need to work on, okay? Now, look for places to actually increase velocity. Find a coach, right? Preferably someone who's remote, who has been where you want to go and have developed many players to where you want to go, right? And again, I love remote training so much that we actually created a company that is solely remote training because it's what I wished I had when I was a 16-year-old throwing 78 miles an hour. Like the stuff that we do is like just levels above what was provided before, right? When I was a 16-year-old. And it's like, man, I wish I had this. And I created it with my partner who was in a similar situation, who was throwing 88. He was a little bit higher level, but he was also older and he was trying to get to the professional level. And he was able to train himself to throw 100 miles an hour and play professional baseball, right? And this is what we felt like we wish we had as athletes when we were younger. And so if that's something you're interested in, top link in the description, you can book a call with us and we can see if that's the right fit for you. But more than anything, I hope you got value from this. And the biggest thing that I take away from this video is that you need to work on what actually matters, right? And what people are looking for, which is pitching velocity nowadays. And then take the best course of action that you think to get there.